Israel's military said Tuesday that it had regained effective control over the south and the border with the Gaza Strip 4 days after Hamas fighters stormed into the country and brought gun battles to its streets for the first time in decades. The declaration came as the Israeli Defense Forces sought to make good on the government's vow to hunt down the militants and intensify an assault on densely populated Gaza, the Palestinian territory ruled by Hamas and home to 2 million people. The conflict already has killed hundreds on both sides. The Israeli military said more than 1,000 people have died in Israel since Saturday's incursion. In Gaza and the West Bank, 765 people have been killed according to authorities there. In Israel and beyond, the families of more than 150 people kidnapped by Hamas and other militant groups feared for the lives of their loved ones. The armed wing of Hamas has warned it will kill one of the hostages every time Israel's military bombs civilian targets in Gaza without warning. Some of the key takeaways from the war are that Israel expanded its mobilization of military reservists to 360,000 on Tuesday, according to the country's media. The chief military spokesman emphasized the unprecedented nature of the campaign against Hamas, saying all options are on the table. The military said it struck hundreds of Hamas targets overnight in Gaza. Tens of thousands of residents fled their homes as relentless airstrikes leveled buildings, including in Gaza City's residential and commercial district of Ramal. Along with bombarding downtown Gaza City, Israeli airstrikes also targeted the crossing between Egypt and the city of Rafah in southern Gaza, the only passage out of the territory. Over 137,000 Palestinians were packed into the United Nations shelter, and the World Health Organization reported the medical supplies it had pre-positioned in 7 Gaza hospitals were already used up. The head of Doctors Without Borders for the Palestinian territory said he was concerned the humanitarian medical group's team in Gaza would soon run out of medical supplies now that the enclave's borders have closed. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared in a television announcement Monday that the offensive against Hamas in the Gaza Strip has only started. He said, "What we will do to our enemies in the coming days will reverberate with them for generations." Hamas leaders have not spoken publicly about whether they anticipated Israel's ferocious retaliation and the potential risk of losing much of the group's government infrastructure when they launched the weekend attack. The US is delivering critically needed munitions and other military equipment to Israel, and the Pentagon is reviewing inventories to see what else can be sent quickly to boost its ally in the war with Hamas, a senior Defense Department official said Monday. The official briefed reporters on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive shipments. The weapons movement came as President Joe Biden announced that the US death toll in the war had gone up to 11. The war threatened to delay or derail a country-by-country diplomatic push by the United States to improve relations between Israel and its Arab nations. Hamas attacks in Israel and much of the Arab world's response to it raised questions about whether Palestinian ambitions for sovereignty could be put aside during the so-called normalization push. Foreign governments tend to determine how many of their citizens were dead, missing, or in need of medical help or flights home from Israel. Japan's top government spokesperson pledged to do the utmost to protect the safety of a small number of Japanese citizens in the conflict area. 18 Thais were feared dead based on reports from employers, Thai Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Tuesday. A batch of 15 evacuees was scheduled to board a flight to arrive in Thailand on Thursday. The Austrian government said 3 Austrian-Israeli dual citizens may be among the people kidnapped by Hamas during its attack on Israel. Italy's foreign minister said an Italian-Israeli couple had been missing since the incursion and were probably taken hostage. Arab foreign ministers plan to convene Wednesday in Cairo at the behest of the Palestinians. Arab League Assistant Secretary General said the ministers would discuss Arab efforts to stop the Israeli aggression on Gaza. In Canada, thousands of people gathered at Mel Last Man Square in solidarity with Israel in the aftermath of a weekend of violence in the Middle East. Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, speaking at the rally organized by the UJA Federation of Greater Toronto, said, "We call for the hostages who were seized in this vile, horrific attack to be released immediately. We unequivocally condemn the terrorist attack by Hamas. And let me be very clear, as the Prime Minister has also been, the glorification of terror has no place in Canada. That is not who we are. That is not what Canada is. There is no space for that here in our country." Police from York, Toronto, and Durham regions, as well as the OPP, were at this evening rally, created a barrier between the demonstration at Mill Lastman Square and a surge of pro-Palestinian counter-protesters. An earlier pro-Palestinian demonstration at Nathan Phillips Square was organized by the Palestinian Youth Movement. By 3 p.m., there were hundreds of people flooding the square, spilling out onto Queen Street. By the time they started to march towards the Israeli embassy, the crowd had grown to an estimated 1,000 people. Participants waved flags and held signs saying "Stand with the Palestinian resistance" while chanting "Palestine will be free." Some demonstrators also appeared to speak out in favor of the actions of Hamas, which has been classified as a terrorist organization. As a result of the demonstration, police reported rolling roads closures in downtown Toronto, particularly on Bay Street. Toronto police deployed a very large presence at both demonstrations and said on Monday that members of the force's hate crime unit were on the ground monitoring activity. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has condemned the attack at a vigil in Orwa in the crowded Soloway Jewish Community Center Monday evening. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, Orwa Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, and other politicians also attended the event. Trudeau appeared to reference pro-Palestinian rallies across Canada as he addressed the solemn crowd. He said, "Hamas terrorists aren't a resistance, they are not freedom fighters. They are terrorists and no one in Canada should be supporting them, much less celebrating them." Trudeau also spoke with Israeli Prime Minister on Sunday, where he unequivocally condemned Hamas attacks and said he is gravely concerned about the atrocities that have unfolded. At the vigil in Orwa, Poilievre called Hamas evil in its purest form and said it does not speak for Palestinians. He told the crowd in Orwa that is why I unreservedly condemn any and all who took part in the disgusting celebrations that we have seen on our streets. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also told his Israeli counterpart on Tuesday that the people of India stand firmly with his country in this difficult hour, expressing strong and unequivocal condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Netanyahu called up Modi to update him on the ongoing situation as Israel carries out strikes against Hamas after its militant killed hundreds of Israelis in a surprise weekend attack across the southern border. The Indian leader expressed his deep condolences and sympathy for those killed and wounded and highlighted the issue of safety and security of Indian citizens in Israel. Netanyahu assured him of full cooperation and support. Israel says it takes pains to avoid civilian casualties as it targets Hamas sites in Gaza.